from rocioflores.com, and today I am going to be doing a chatting with you guys while I'm doing official chatting on my computer. So I had talked about wanting to do this, so I wanted to do like an IGT channel, but I haven't really looked into doing that. You have to actually upload them, which means that I don't get to do the same as live as here. Hello. So I want to explain first what I'm doing with the chatting over here. So I do coaching sessions through chat, and I do peer sessions through chat, and I really like it because through chat people get the ability to take the time to answer the questions, and they're not as afraid to say what they want to say because they're not like looking right at you. And so I really like that. But it also gives me a little bit of downtime, especially if I don't take too many chats at once. So I could talk to you guys at the same time that I'm doing this. Plus, these are real issues, people going through real things that you might be going through. So, hello guys, let me wave at all of you. So I want to share some of the issues and some of the things that we go through on here, and some of the things that I tend to see as patterns, because I think that way it's sort of like giving you guys a coaching session if you're going through that same issue. So I do want to go over a few things. So for example, my cat might be coming in and out of the room. I left the door open so that I don't have to get up. I also don't care what I look like because I'm wearing PJs and I'm working in my office, and I don't typically care what I look like, but I did put on a regular shirt. And if a chat comes in, the chat comes first. So that means that I will put all my attention on that. So I did have a topic to talk about today. I was just thinking about it yesterday because I was trying to go through, and I was just thinking about how we decide what what we're worth or what we deserve in this world, right? And so, hello. This is an issue that I myself deal with. I think it's an issue that I have a lot of people coming to me with, and I think it's an issue that you guys, at any point, if you're going through a health journey or you're going through a personal development journey or business journey, right? Any of these huge things, even in relationships or in family situations or just straight up going to college, and it's this issue of what do we deserve, right? So let me answer here real quick, and then I'll get back to you guys. So another thing, hello. When I'm doing the chats, right? Sometimes it takes me a little bit longer if somebody puts a lot at once, and I want to make sure that I'm answering right. And a lot of the times I have to ask a lot more clarifying questions because people tend not to give you everything at once. And a huge part of coaching is to make sure that you're getting the right information so that you're able to help them understand their frame of mind and where they're coming from. Hello. So, okay, the issue I was talking about. So I wanted to frame it in a non-material way because I don't think it's a material issue. But I want to give you guys a material example, if that makes sense. So let's say that for your entire life, you've never had paper, right? And so you've never had paper in your life, right? So one day somebody gives you a wet piece of paper. And that's all you've ever seen in your life, right? But you need to write you need to write something. You are wanting to write your story, or you're wanting to write a grocery list, I don't know, something. If all you've ever had is wet pieces of paper, when somebody gives you a dry, crumpled up piece of paper, you're going to take it and you're going to be so happy because you finally have something that you never had, right? And so it becomes your new maximum potential. So, for example, people who come from very difficult backgrounds who were abused, right? If all you've ever known is abuse, if all you've ever known is for people to treat you crappy, to hurt you physically or in other ways, then when somebody is nice to you, you're like, oh my God, this is like a reality. People can be nice to me. I didn't know that, right? So you'd be happy with that. It becomes your new maximum potential for what you could possibly deserve in this world, if you don't know otherwise. because all you've ever known is the bad. So in comparison, the bad with the good, that good is much better than the bad, right? So let's say one day you go somewhere and you meet all these people, and they look at you and they see you writing on a crumpled up piece of paper. Now they're coming and they have computers. So when they're writing, they're typing on a computer, right? And let's say that they're coming from a lifestyle where the computer is their maximum. That's the greatest thing they have. Their minimum is like beautifully crisp, perfect parchment paper with like the lining and all that. And so for them to see you using a crumpled up piece of paper is like, what the heck are they doing? Like, why don't they have something better? Because to them, they're coming from a world where they've had it all. So their minimum is a lot of other people's maximum potential, right? So the least that they would ever be okay with getting is that beautiful piece of paper that's perfect and ready to use and like lined and everything, right? So here's what happens when we enter like the personal development world, or we enter into any major just a new part of our lives, right? So let's say you just left home and so you're going to college. Let's say that you are entering a new relationship after having been in a bad relationship. Let's say that you're starting a brand new business, or oh, thank you for the hearts, or you're the first person in your family to start a business. You move to a new country, etc. So if you come from a background where you had very, very, very low minimums, right? You're going to come in and you're going to notice all these new things that are like, oh my God, there's all these amazing new things that I never even knew existed. Give me a second. So let's say that you are now introduced into the world of, oh my God, there's like pretty paper out there. You're not even looking at the fact that these people have computers and laptops or brand new iPhones or whatever, right? You're looking at the fact that all you've ever had and all you've ever hoped for was a crumpled up piece of paper. Now you're being offered a regular piece of paper. And this is where the issue may come in. Sometimes we don't feel like we deserve that piece of paper, right? So let's say that you come home after wherever this imaginary place is where they gave you papers, and you try to tell your parents about it. And you're like, oh my God, look at this cool piece of paper. You might get different responses. They might be like, oh, look at you. You think you're so much better now that you have all these great things. Or you might get a response that's sort of along the lines of, okay, so you got this new thing now. Now you think that you're always going to get that new thing? Aren't you happy with the thing that you had? We worked so hard to give you that thing you had. Or you might even get questions about who you are, what you're worth, why you deserve that, why you think you deserve that, right? Now, when speaking to people on the other end, right, the people who've always had a really much higher minimum than you, they see you using these little, something that's not that great, and they're like, why are you using that? Like, what do you mean that's all you have? How could you be okay with having that? Don't you want to strive for something better? Like, you must not think that much of yourself. So you're having people who are coming from very different mindsets. Now, it made sense when you were in one living world to understand how they're thinking, right? It made a lot of sense, and you had to create a world around that kind of experience. Now you're coming into a new world and you're seeing people who have a completely different experience, but you're not there yet. You don't have a computer. You're still holding your crumpled up piece of paper. So do you deserve to take that new piece of paper? So that's where I want to get at. Let me explain a little bit more. Let me respond here though. So obviously I want to make sure that I'm not making you guys think I'm talking about just material things, but it does fall on that because have you heard stories about like basketball players or rappers or people who came into money in their lives from nothing? So they came into this world they didn't have anything. They didn't come from anything, and all of a sudden they got all this money, right? And what do? Well, we have all these stories of people who like blow through the money in nothing and end up right back where they were. Now you might be thinking, well, I'm smarter than that. I wouldn't do that. I would be better at managing that money, or if I have that money, blah, 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 right? But here's the thing. If you don't feel that you deserve that world, or that world will stay, or that you'll be able to continuously deserve that world, you are going to take that money. You're going to spend it like as crazy as you can, and then you're going to fall right back. Because it's not about the materialistic things in your world. It's about what's inside you and what you really genuinely feel that you do and don't deserve. So let's say you're given a piece of paper. Do you deserve the piece of paper? Do you feel that you should take that piece of paper? Are you seeing that stack over there and thinking, I need to grab all that stack because I may never get this paper ever again? Or are you thinking, I can use this piece of paper and I can now, from this moment on in my life, continue to earn more than this piece of paper and work up to a computer, So you gotta, some of you are coming from the lifestyle that your minimum is the base normal that we experience in this world. So for example, in relationships, right? For a lot of you guys, respect, dignity, being able to openly talk, communication, conflict resolution, healthy relationships are just the normal. That's what you grew up with. That's what you saw in your parents. That's what you saw in your uncles and aunts. That's what you saw in your grandparents. You know people who have been married for like 40 years. That's normal. So when you go into the dating world, what do you expect? You expect that normal. And that is your minimum, which means that you might even expect more than your minimum, right? So you might be like, okay, well, I don't even look for somebody who isn't those things. I look for those things, plus I want them to have a good job and have a good this and have a good that and blah, 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 blah. So if you're coming from that world, right, won't you then find it weird when you meet somebody who settles for less than that? It makes sense, right? You're like, why would they want to be with somebody who's rude to them or who's mean to them or who fights with them? Hello. So, and this is actually a good example of the conversation I'm having now, because it's relying upon the world of what do I deserve in a relationship, okay? So, now let's say that you come from a background where all you ever saw were people who fought, people who hit each other, people who never had any boundaries, people who were always being mean and rude, and the only way to ask for something was by yelling. The only way to get something was by hitting and getting physical. And so you come into the dating world, and what are you looking for? What's your minimum? If you saw that as your minimum, then anything better than that is now your new maximum. So you're coming into a relationship and you're thinking, okay, this guy doesn't seem to want to hit me. This guy doesn't yell at me. And, he seems to have boundaries. I mean, he tells me what he does and doesn't want. So he must be great. Now, the person over here who's had a healthy relationship their entire life, they're thinking, these people are awesome. They can look out there and find people who are amazing and who are always better than the minimum. Now they look at you and they see your relationship. They're like, why would you put up with that? And they don't understand that you've never had more, that you've never known that it could be better, that you've never known that this isn't the best. Now, does that mean that you don't deserve better? This is where I'm trying to get at. So many of us come from those backgrounds that we don't believe that we deserve better. We're operating on a minimum standard. Our maximum is everyone else's minimum. The normal person, the healthy person, the privileged, maybe, people who've had it all are the people, their minimum is our maximum. We can barely even think that we can get there. So what happens if you get that their minimum and it's your maximum? Is it the end? Do you get to just be like, okay, I've got it all. I don't get to demand more. I don't get to want more. I don't get to seek more out of life because I should be happy and grateful with what I got. This is a legitimate question that I want to ask because I think that it is a really big mentality issue that will keep us from being able to get more if we believe that we don't deserve more and that we should just be happy with having that minimum. And here's the thing, it's really hard to seek support in these areas because it's you have to really recognize where those people are. So if you're talking to somebody who's always had the best, they're going to just tell you straight up, you can do so much better, right? And that's not a bad thing. It's a great thing. It's a great thing to be encouraged that way and to be told that you should be better, that there should be better in this world for you. Here's the thing though, their advice may not work with your situation because they're not in your situation. So they don't understand exactly what's going on. Give me just a second. So then the thing goes, if you go to the opposite end and you're talking to like people who come from your background, you might not be able to even get a chance to say what's going on because they're thinking, how dare you be so ungrateful? You have somebody that's so much better. Like your guy doesn't cheat on you. Your guy doesn't hit you. Your guy doesn't lie to you. Okay, but does he respect you? Does he communicate with you? Does he have good conflict resolution skills? Do they have healthy boundaries? And if we believe that we cannot push past that because we should be grateful to have the minimum, we're not going to push past that. And that goes with relationships. It goes with personal development. It goes with your business. It goes with your health, right? So if you've ever talked to somebody who has always been overweight, to see you being go from being thin to, let's say you're overweight, but not to their extent, maybe. Oh, it looks like I'm getting blurry. Okay. So let's say not to their extent. Let's say that you're 30 pounds lighter than them. When you say, man, I really want to lose this weight, what do you typically hear from them? Oh, you're so skinny. How can you think that you need to lose weight? Like, that doesn't matter. Like, I wish I was like you. So you might be thinking then, well, then maybe I don't need to. Because I am better than other people. I'm lower than other people. So why would I want to do that, right? Now you talk to somebody who's fit, like not even thin, but fit, and they're going to agree with you. They're like, you know what you should do is you should do this and this and this, and then that way you'll get to that weight. So now you feel like, oh, well, I don't know if I can do those things. Like, maybe I will never get there. It's not possible for me to get there because I can't even do the simple things right now, right? So you're talking to people with such different mentalities from you that it's very, very hard for you to understand what you can and can't do and what you're worthy of doing and what you're capable of doing. So enter the personal development world. I think that it is huge for you, no matter what journey you're on, to be connected to people who will help you understand what your maximum and your minimums are at the moment and where they should be. Because you can't go backwards to people who don't understand these concepts. And you can't always just listen to people who have more than you. Because just because they have more than you doesn't mean that they have the mentality to get more. They just happen to have had more from the beginning. They were born with a laptop. You were born with wet paper. So you need to talk to other people who have gone from one to the other. Those are the people you listen to. Those are the people that can help you because they understand what it actually takes, the kind of thoughts you'll have, the kind of feelings you'll have, the kind of difficulty that you'll have getting there. So, for example, I've been listening to Gary Vee. I wasn't a big fan of him before. Not like I wasn't a fan of him, but I just wasn't like, he wasn't somebody that I listened to a lot. And then I've been seeing some of his stuff, and I really like how he's able to come through and say, I've been here. So it took this to get here. Versus, I do see other people who are very popular, but they have never been in the low end. So they don't know what it actually would take to get there because they started here. So to get from, they started up here So they just had to go up here, while other people they're down here and they had to move all the way up here. So who's gonna understand your struggle more? Where are you? Where did you start? And are you understanding other people's struggles? I think sometimes we forget that we might be more privileged than other people. And we don't like that word because we feel like our life sucked. So how dare somebody tell us that it didn't? That's not what that means. It just means that you may have started off at a different point than someone else. And so your viewpoint might be different than theirs. And so you do understand that when somebody tries to tell you, like, you don't even know how lucky you are. It's because they're coming from a worldview where you are freaking lucky. You have resources, you have minimums that for them are maximums. And so to them, if they had what you had, they could do so much more. And it is frustrating to see people who have more not do more with it, right? At the same time, you're going to have all these other people who have it all telling you don't compare yourself to other people and don't care about other people's opinions, which is hard when you don't know if you should be compared yourself to other people, right? If you don't know whether or not you should be working towards that next piece of paper, or if you're just being too hard on yourself, or you should be just using what you have right now, not seeking something better. Should you just be grateful with what you have? So I wanted to use the paper example was just what came up to my mind because I wanted to somehow give you guys like an example that was physical, but a lot of it's realistic. So when I was a kid, there were very few times that we had school supplies in time for school to start. It was more of a, they give out the list, and then my parents kind of had to wait and see, okay, what do they really need? What are we actually going to spend money on, right? Because I didn't come from means. So there were many times when I started school without paper. I started school without pens. Or I started school with a bag, and I had to put my little notebook and pencil in it, and that's what I went to school with. It wasn't that big of an issue to me, other than, obviously feeling a little embarrassment at some points. But I did go to school with other people who were in the same kind of resources as my family. So it wasn't that abnormal to see other kids who didn't have what I didn't have. I do remember, though, in third grade, we used to live in we lived in a shelter for battered women. And that year, it fell in that summer right before school. They got us school supplies. I remember, like, it was the coolest thing ever. Because all of a sudden, they gave us this big backpack, like a legit backpack. It had everything we needed. I had highlighters. I had pencils and markers, and I had crayons. And I remember going to school the first day, and the teacher said, take this out. And I was like, oh my God, I have that. Like, are you kidding me? Like, it was so cool. I loved that backpack. I loved everything in it, and I got so excited for it. And since then, I'm still super excited because markers are expensive. Even if you have money, markers are expensive. Getting school supplies is expensive. And so I don't think that before then I maybe cared about those things. After that, I realized, wait, I could have these things? Like, I could be somebody who has these things continuously? But for a long time, I never thought to ask for those things because I knew that they didn't come from my parents. I knew that, hello. I knew that I couldn't demand those things because of the situation we were in. So I had a good enough understanding to know that it wasn't right of me to demand those things at that time. But here's the thing, is it right of me to demand them now that I'm an adult? Like, is it okay for me to go to the store and think, should I get these pretty markers or these pretty pencils or this backpack or, things that I need? I think a lot of the times we get up in our head and we feel like we don't, right? And it comes from that feeling of we don't deserve more. Particularly in relationships. It's something I still struggle with. It's something that I talk to a lot of people, and a lot of the times we do have to just kind of go through that. Like, do you feel that? Do you believe that? And if you believe that, how can we go through making sure that you can get it? I did have some family members once try to get me to change the way I think about things, because I like cheap things. I like to buy cheap things. I don't like spending money if I don't have to. I don't feel like I need that much more, and I definitely don't feel like I need things that are expensive for no reason. And so they tried to get me to, like, change that. And they said, because you're worth it, and you should learn how to be worth it. Here's the thing. That worth doesn't come from the material things. That worth comes from the inside. And if I still feel like I'm not worthy of saying no to somebody stepping their boundaries and trying to change something that is important to me, then I'm obviously not, buying stuff isn't going to change that feeling. And so I've had to kind of work through, when do I say no? Like, this isn't something I want. And when is it okay to be like, I think this is okay? I think we all have to go through that, though. It's not something that just because you're in the personal development world, you're just in the business world, etc. That's something you have to go through. You have to go through to get through your health, through your spiritual health. I mean, you're coming to God and God's telling you you're this, like, He loves you and you're worthy of all these things and you can gain all these things through Him, and all of a sudden you're going to be like, I don't think so. Like, I don't believe that. Because nobody ever told you that. And if nobody ever told you that, why would you believe them? So it could be difficult, and I understand that it can be very difficult to allow yourself that, that thought that you could possibly understand more. I'm not from Indonesia. I'm actually originally from Mexico, but I've lived in the US my whole life. Are there Flores in Indonesia? That's not my that's my married name, so that's actually my husband's name. But I guess I don't know where Flores comes from. Are you from Indonesia? So coming back to the conversation I was having here, and then responded right away. They're having an issue with a friend who's demanding something of them. That they're like, why do I have to be upset about that? Sometimes people will demand things of you because they believe that they deserve those things. Now, they maybe learned along the way that they don't have to work for those minimums, that they just should have them, right? And so they go out into the world, and all of a sudden, those things aren't easy to get, but they still want them. And that's a whole other issue. So you might be somebody who's on that end. And I typically work more with people who are on like the more of the growth versus the having to like dial down your confidence. But it is something that can work on that end as well, where you think that you're demanding things that you don't earn, that you don't deserve yet, because you haven't earned them, you haven't worked for them. And that's the opposite mentality, again, coming from a world where you've always been giving it. Now you're like, wait, I have to work for it? So you might be coming from either end. Let me know what you think. Where are you in your mentality, whether you're a health person or you're in personal development or in the business world, what are you thinking as far as what you deserve and what you don't deserve? Are you coming into college and seeing that you're going to school with all these people who have generations of college members, who have always gone to school, who have every support system in the world, and you have no idea who to ask for help? Is that something that you're struggling with? Are you coming into relationships and not really knowing what you're allowed to demand, what boundaries you're allowed to set, what you aren't allowed to feel? Are you coming into the business world and recognizing that some people have money and that's why they're having such an easy time and you don't? So you can't compare your journey to them because you're going to have to put in a lot more physical work versus just putting up cash. So, or are you going into the personal development work? You've just started like reading a book and you're like, nope, none of this is true. It's no way. Like, there's no way I'll ever have these things. That's how I felt when I first started. A lot of these things were like, what? People, like, what? I didn't know that I deserved better, right? And so, hello. Where are you at in your journey? What are your minimums and your maximums? And how are you seeing those minimums and maximums in comparison to the rest of the world around you? And does it give you hope for something better in this world? Or does it scare the crap out of you and you don't want to move forward? I would love to hear your story. I would love it if you shared it with me. And feel free to do it in a private message. And we can keep talking about this subject. I might do like a formal post on it if I feel like, if it's something that people want to talk about. I might refine my little paper theory. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to save this video and I'm going to upload it to my YouTube. What happens sometimes, though, I don't know why, it uploads with horrible quality. I don't know why. I think it's because my phone has a really high resolution camera and Instagram doesn't like it. And so it tries to like change the pixels and it looks all stupid and pixelated. Because I do have a good camera. Something I deserve. So I'll upload it though so you can still listen to it. And I'd love to hear what you think. And yeah, I think I'm gonna go ahead and now try to take a few more chats because I haven't been taking any new ones because I don't want to get, I didn't want to get too distracted. So thank you guys so much for watching today. Send me a message. Let me know what you're thinking. What your opinion is, what your story. Have you gone from bottom to top? And what has that been like? Or are you somebody who's really stuck somewhere, right? Send me a message and we can talk about it. But thank you guys so much. I hope that you're having a blessed day. And make sure that you keep an eye out because I'll be putting new blog posts out this weekend. So have a great day, okay, guys? Bye.